The Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, went west bearing gifts. On her visit to Perth, she announced a review of how the goods and services tax is carved up between the states. It's meant to lift some of the pressure from Labor in the West. That state's Premier has complained long and loud that his resource-rich state is getting dudded by Canberra. But as political editor Chris Uhlmann reports, there are calls for a root and branch change to the way the Commonwealth works with the states.
Remarkably, not one of these West Australians is protesting about their state's cut of GST revenue. But that's the gift the Prime Minister came bearing.
Here in Western Australia, clearly people in the community have been concerned about the way in which the GST is distributed and whether this state is getting its fair share.
Her GST review's been welcomed by the resource-rich state, which has long complained about the funding split.
When the other states, the big states of New South Wales, Victoria and Queensland all get back in excess of 90 cents in the dollar, I believe Western Australia has been very generous, very fair to say we simply want a minimum that we get at least 75 cents back.
He's not alone. Victoria is worse off after a recent review of its circumstances.
We are being significantly punished by the Commonwealth for the $2.5 billion that have been withdrawn from our revenues by Julia Gillard and the Commonwealth in recent weeks.
But an argument over a limited pile of money means there is only one certain outcome.
Now, if Western Australia and Queensland are winners out of this review, then the losers will be all the other states.
There's a simple logic at the heart of the GST carve-up. States should have enough cash to ensure every Australian has access to the same services. But that's where the simplicity ends, because not every state puts the same effort into raising its own money, and some manage money better.
States who do not themselves manage their affairs efficiently still get rewarded, because you can't leave their citizens behind. But it means it doesn't encourage efficient state administration, unfortunately.
The Commonwealth levies the GST, so it gets to decide how the money's split. Enter the Grants Commission, which has devised a diabolically complex formula for levelling the state playing fields.
It does a pretty good job. Indeed, some would say it does too good a job. The reason is the equalisation that takes place is ahead of the minimum standards that are common in most other countries.
31% of the $50 billion in GST raised this financial year will be returned to New South Wales because at its base, the Grants Commission pays back per head of population. But each state gets more or less of $1 for each person because some are more financially independent and others have a harder job delivering services.
I want state budgets to be more predictable. I want the whole system to be more transparent.
The plan to remap the money trail will be years in the making, and some see its focus as too narrow. It does nothing to fix Commonwealth mission creep.
One of the bigger issues is trying to sort the federal system out so that you don't have the constant interference of the Commonwealth in state affairs.
Kevin Rudd set out to recast Commonwealth-state relations in 2007 because the federal government was micromanaging money by tying grants to specific purposes. Superficially, the system changed, but the culture didn't move.
The Commonwealth government has reverted to type, and we've gone back to exactly the same problems with enormous amounts of administrative conditions placed on grants.
It's the accident of particular provisions of our Constitution that have allowed the Commonwealth to extend its powers beyond what really is in the end good for the country. The Commonwealth is not the great administrator it thinks it is. Just look at the programs that it mucks up continuously.
What there really needs to be is a recognition on the part of the Commonwealth that it's not their money. It's the money of the people. It's the taxpayers' money. And whether that money goes to the states or goes to the Commonwealth and gets used, it's not the Commonwealth's gift.
Both argue the real change Australia needs is a clearer definition of responsibilities and a restructure of the tax system.
The states receive a GST that covers their functions, and the Commonwealth has income and corporate taxes that cover their functions. That would lead to, indeed, some small increase to GST towards international levels, but a big reduction in income and in income taxes and corporate taxes, and that would unleash a lot more activity in the country that would pay for this many times over.
The one thing the Commonwealth doesn't want reviewed is the level of the GST.
No, because it's too convenient for politicians to have the present system because it allows them to buck pass all the time.
While Labor is working on rewriting the relationship with the states, the Coalition wants to pump up the workforce by cracking down on welfare. Unemployment benefits would be suspended for people under 30 who live in an area where unskilled jobs are on offer, and work for the dole would be compulsory for people under 50 who've been unemployed for 6 months.
Allowing people to stay on welfare when there is work they can reasonably do is the kindness that kills.
It's been met with a furious response from welfare groups.
Mr Abbott has characterised this policy as being fair but firm. I would be more inclined to characterise it as tough but cruel.
The government seems less concerned that it's harsh and more that it's a reheated, unfunded plan.
This is the third time he's announced it, and this time he hasn't even bothered to try and talk about the money, where the money would come from.
Uhlmann there.